Hi, this is Katie Nelson. I'm also known as Katie the Scrapbook Lady from scrapbookladypages.com, and I'm here today to talk about how to use my layered templates in Photoshop Elements. I'm using version 11 for this tutorial. The templates work in other versions of Photoshop Elements or Photoshop or other programs that can use layers. Any program that will be able to use layers will work. You just may have to make some adjustments for your own workspace instead of what I'm using. Why would you want to use a template? Well, they're a huge time saver for one. I love to scrap with templates because it takes the work out and lets you just have fun. You just plug in your photos and your supplies and your words and you're done. There's a lot less stress to this type of scrapbooking and a lot more fun. I've been studying scrapbook design for decades, and I know what makes a page work and what makes a page not work. I've had plenty of examples of those too in my history. But I've put a lot of effort and thought into the design of these pages to help you be able to showcase your memories in the best light possible. Templates are reusable. You can use them over and over again without even changing a thing, and they'll still look different because you're using different supplies and stories and photos each time. But you can also change them by rotating them or flipping them, or you can move things around to fit your own style. There are no rules. You get to do what you want. When I design my templates, I make them available in two different formats. Everybody seems to have a different preference on this. They are available as PSD files, which are the native Photoshop files, or as TIFF files. And both of those are layered. I prefer the TIFF because I happen to use a PC, and the PSD files are not viewable on my PC Windows view. So I like the TIFF because then I can see exactly what the file is. You'll find as you watch tutorials on digital scrapbooking that there are often many different ways to do the same task. I'm going to show you the way that I use to open my files. One method you can use is you can be in Photoshop Elements and hit File, Open, and search for what you want each time. But I love this little shortcut. I have it set up so that when I want to open a file, I have chosen a default of always opening my files with Photoshop Elements 11. Again, you can change that to any program you want. Because I have that, all I have to do is double click on my file and it brings it right up. Now, in Photoshop Elements 11, you'll want to make sure you're in the Expert view and not the Quick view. The Quick view is just for editing photos using their shortcuts. The Expert view will let you get to all your layers. If you need to change anything around about your workspace, there are plenty of buttons and drop-down menus to help you do that. I suggest that you look at some help online on what's the best way to set up your workspace. I personally love the Help Adobe site. They have a lot of great tips and advice there. So you just want to have your workspace set up the way that you like it. Now that I can access these layers, I can get started on digi-scrapping using a layered template. I try to name my layers in a way that people will understand how to use them. So here, this layer is called Photo or Paper 1. I am going to add that photo in a minute, but first I want to show you how I get to the photos because I'm still going to add one more to this layout. So in my folder of photos, again, because I've chosen my default program to open files with, I can just double click on this one. I like to have the photo bin view up in Photoshop Elements so I can see everything I'm working with along the bottom. And then it just becomes a matter of dragging and dropping. So I'm going to put this first photo in that photo space 1. Now you'll see it comes up a little bigger than that space is. All you have to do is grab the corners using your mouse and size it about how you want it. And because I'm on a PC, I'm going to use the Control button and push the letter G at the same time. And what that does is that clips this photo to the layer below. There are different ways to do that on a Mac. I believe it's the Command key. And it's just a way of attaching that top layer to the bottom layer. Now you can take your mouse, you can move it around. You don't want to move it so much that the bottom layer is showing, but you can move that around. Now my son is still behind that journaling card. Or photo space, however you're going to use this. I don't really want him hidden, So there are a couple tricks I can use. I can select this so that my layer is selected. I can simply use the arrow key on my keyboard and move it over, and I like that because then it stays in the exact same location. It's not going to change its height. It's just moving over. So I like to use my arrow keys a lot. But it's okay to just grab something with your mouse and move it around wherever you want. Say you want the flower over there or you want the flower here. That's the nice thing. It's very customizable. So I've moved that out of the way so it's not going to block my sun. And again, I called this a journaling card space because when I've used it before, I've put journaling cards there. This time, I'm going to put another photo there. I'm going to drag it. Again, it's going to come in a little bigger than I want, so I'm going to resize it. Now you can see, if you have some of that showing, some of that bottom layer, you want to make sure you're covering that with your photo, because when you clip it, you don't want to see that color underneath. So I clipped it using my Control G, and there they are. If I want to make it still a little bigger, even after it's clipped, I can just use my mouse to change things around. So I've got my photos taken care of, and this is something I should have done right at the beginning, but I knew I would forget because I'm being recorded. But as you start working on a template, you don't want to save over the template as it was designed, because you want to be able to keep reusing it. And so you want to have a working copy. Now everybody is different about this. I like to save it to my desktop while I'm working on it. Now you can leave it the same name as the template if you want. It helps you remember where the template is. Or you can change the name right there and say, I'm going to call this the Sinclair Station, however you want to do it. But the point of saving it in a different location is that you're not rewriting the original template file. So I've got a saved copy right now that I'm working on. You'll notice I saved it as a TIFF file, okay, and so that I'm still keeping my layers intact. You don't want to save it as a JPEG or JPG until the very end, because that will flatten it. So I've saved this, but now I want to add the goodies, the digital goodies. And I've looked at my photos that I'm using here, and I've got kind of a red, white, and blue, I've got green and blue. My daughter's wearing pink, my son's wearing navy. There's a lot I could go with here color-wise. There's different themes I could use. And I decided to go with a travel theme because this was on a road trip. This is a place that we always stop when we're on the road. And so I looked through my travel kits and I found one that I liked, and it is by One Little Bird Designs and the Ardent Sparrow. It's a collaborative kit, and it's called Going Places. I love travel kits, and the colors are really nice for this because there's some pink and some blue, which I have in my photo, and the theme works really well. So again, I open up my file where I have the papers, and I've not done this layout before recording this tutorial. I'm doing it live so you can watch exactly how I scrap using these. So I am going to pick out a couple of papers and just double click on them to get them open in my program. I like that one. Now another thing I could do while I'm in my program, I could go File, Open, and then I could search through my folders to find those papers. But for me, this is just a much quicker way, and you can see them lining up in the photo bin ready for me to use. Sometimes I don't like my photo bin to get too crowded, so if I've already used something, I just go ahead and close it. That helps me keep everything in order. So I'm going to pick a few more things. I like this little piece of word art. I like this little tab. These are just things I think I'm probably going to use. I usually like to end up using a neutral paper somewhere on the layout, and that will probably get me started. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I'm in the expert view. I'm going to go back to my main layout, and I like to start with my background first. That's just kind of helps me anchor down my page. And so I think what I will do is maybe I'll try this yellow in the back and see how that works. And I like that. It's kind of a fun look. If I want to see how something else looks, I just simply drag that in and try that. Now you'll notice that brought it in at the wrong place. What I want to do, and the template helps me keep this all in order, is I want to make sure it's right above the background paper, and I can turn that other one off to see. Now that one's just not the right color for me, not quite the right look. I think I'll try the pink real quick and just see what I think of that. I like that. So I'm going to keep the pink turned on, make sure the others are turned off, or if you're really worried about getting too much in your stack, you can just delete the layer. Keeps your stack nice and clean. Okay, now this is something that I have labeled as a paper strip. You could fill that with paper, you know, and use the template with the clipping, or you could even turn the whole thing off and just use it as an idea to understand where to put an element similar to that. So this is similar to a paper strip, and I'm going to put that there. Now one thing I want to bring up by doing that is you'll notice when I brought it in, I didn't clip it to something that was already shadowed. I include shadows with my templates, and I include the kind of shadows that you would use with flat papers or photos. And you can tell when something is shadowed because it will have this little FX tool right next to it. If you want to see the shadow settings I use, I like the 45-degree angle. I know some people prefer the 120-degree. I like a really dark brown shadow, so I've used that, but if you prefer a gray, you can, you know, play around with the color of your shadow. You can use the slider tools. If you're going to shadow a flower, you might want a bigger shadow. You can play around with that. I will not pretend to say this is a tutorial about shadows. If you want great shadowing advice, go to onelittlebirddesigns.com, and on her blog there, that's Peppermint Granberg, she has a mind-blowing drop shadow tutorial, and it is mind-blowing. But I'm going to show you some basic tricks here to use. So if you want the same shadowing that I have used, all you need to do is right-click on that and copy layer style. Now, when you've got this new layer selected that you did not clip to something already shadowed, make sure that's selected and hit paste layer style. And now it fits in with the rest of the layout. I think I still want it even a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to play around with that. And maybe move it around just a bit. Okay, so far I'm liking that, and I feel like I need something here. And so maybe I will try that yellow there, because I think I like that yellow. So I'll clip. Well, I can also try some of the other designs there to see what I like. But I'm happy with the yellow, so I'm going to leave that. On my bottom paper here, I am going to keep that neutral because I'm going to have my journaling there. So again, clipping it. Now look, I'm already almost done with this layout, and I even played around quite a bit. Now I feel like I want to add a few more things here. I've got something for a flower, a suggestion for a flower. I could add some different things. I also have this word art that I pulled up that I kind of like, so I'm going to see if I could do anything with that. So I'm going to put that maybe up here and play around with it just a little bit. I like stuff big, if you haven't noticed. I like big photos and big embellishments. And again, I'm going to just steal that layer style that I already had. I don't have to copy it again, it's already there. Maybe I like that better over here. Okay. And I feel like I'm done with these. So I'm going to close these out. I'm doing it the long way. You can also use your shift buttons or your control buttons to select a few things at the same time and close them all. I am going to look for a little flower or embellishment to put on this page. So I'm going to browse through here. I like, doesn't have to be a flower just because there's that on the template. I'm going to see if maybe that would be something that would be nice over in that same area. Okay, so I'm going to make sure it's shadowed. And I'm going to turn off the flower there and leave it like that. But I want to show you that if I wanted to do a flower, that would work too. So say you want to just add another little something that you want to add. Okay, how about some washi tape? That's always fun. Okay, so if you want to add a little piece of tape in there too, that can be sort of a fun little look. And I'm just going to move it up a bit. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good about all of this. I'm going to just occasionally make sure I'm saving it to the right place so that, say something happens, and one of my kids needs something and I have to walk away, I don't lose the whole thing. Okay, now for the journaling. And this is a place that I know some people have different feelings. Some people don't like to journal this much. Some people like to journal a lot. But and my system's being slow because I've got a lot of windows open and a lot of stuff going on. But what I have done on the journaling spots is I have included just some random words, and I have formatted them so that they'll work well with this template. Now, it depends on what you put in this place, and you can change the format here very easily. What I usually do when I know I have more than a line of journaling is I go through and I type it in Word first, because I just don't want to have spelling errors. It's my go-to program. It's what I know how to use. There are plenty of people who journal right in on the layout, but I don't like to do that. So once I've got the journaling that I think I want, I go ahead and I copy it, and I will probably still need to make some changes. So this is, I've got this in here, and I've set it so that I can zoom in a little bit with my scroll wheel. Okay, so I am going to backspace over that and paste in what I had. Now you can see when I paste that in that it didn't keep that same format. It's going right across my photo. It's not shaped the same way. So if you really want to keep the format, then you would type right in the program and kind of try to go through that. But this works just fine. So what I'm going to do is I can kind of see that this is pretty close to the length I need. And I think I'm going to put that date down on the bottom. So I'm just going to arrange it. Okay, this is a low-tech way of doing it, but it works. Decide where you want your sentence or your sentence to break and wrap around and just hit the enter key. Okay, now you have to look right here what your settings are and your tools for your text. And right now I have them set to center. So I don't want that. I want to make sure that my text is set to go to the left. And now I can change how this goes. So I'm just entering, and I'm hitting the enter key again, and I ended up with a pretty good look there. Now say if I ended up with too much or too little, maybe I decided I want to add another sentence here since I have a little more room. Or I could say, well, maybe I want my journaling a little bit bigger. And so I could go like that and change the breaks again, which would mean I would need to undo what I had done before. Very simple. I said there are more technical ways to do this, but I find that this gives me the most control over what I want. Okay, and now I have great fitting journaling. I just kept the font the same as what I had used to design the template. It's one of my favorite fonts. And here's where I'm going to add the date. So it was July 12th, 2011. And I want to make that a little bigger. All I need to do is come in here and change that. Again, I can use my arrow keys and just reposition it a little bit. And our layout is done. Super, super simple. I am going to still save the TIFF version. And then I'm also going to save a separate version of the JPEG. And if I close down some of these windows, we'll be able to get a little faster working. I've got a lot going so that I could show you a lot all at the same time. Okay, now I'm going to save the JPEG version. I like to save mine at a 12. I like the highest quality there that I can get. And my page is done. So I just want to show you a couple of other things. My templates are a little bit different than some of the others out there because I do include shadows. I do keep my templates very focused on the photos. I like big photos, and even if you don't use a big photo, I often include room for a lot of smaller photos, or you can fill them however you want. Like on this template, you could use this area for a big photo, these areas for small photos. You could also use this same page for no photos. This could be pattern paper, these could be journaling cards. So I like to have a template that will work for somebody who likes several different approaches. I always leave room for the stories because I think that's really important. I include them in the PSD and TIFF versions. And one thing that I really try to do differently is I scrap with every single template I design. And it's not just that I'm turning my layouts into templates, I'm working on these at the same time and sometimes creating the templates first and then scrapping with them after to make sure that they work. And so every release of my templates includes a blog post where I show the templates. I include a preview with my layouts on, and then I go through and I show you each layout so you can see how it's done. I also, in the file that you download, include a PDF file. And I really like this because one thing that's always hard when you're looking at someone's layouts is you think, well, where'd they get that? Where can I buy that kit? I link to everything I can, so it makes it easy for you. So if you look at this layout and you think, oh, I really like that wood grain paper, you can figure out where to get it just by following that link. I always link up to the fonts I use. Many of them are free. So it's like you're getting a free little idea book here every time you get one of my templates. I also will include on my site an index of all of the templates I've designed. And it's nice because you can get to each blog post about them. You can go directly to purchase them. And there are categories along my shop page. So if you're looking for templates with 3 photos or 20 photos, you can go through and see that. For me, it's been a very helpful way to have everything organized. And I love seeing all that I have been able to create very quickly with the templates that I have designed. As of the date of this recording, I have created 26 sets of layered templates, with usually 2 or 4 or more in a pack, and I've created over 150 layouts just from those template sets. You can find all of my templates at scrapbookladypages.com. If you go to my blog, I will post always when I have a new release, or on my blog there's a link to my scrap shop, which is also part of my blog, and again you can access them by number of photos, by the size of template, or by looking through the entries. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial, and I appreciate all of your great support of my templates. Thank you.